And I just thought we'd start this just asking you, and I'm going to ask you a segue of this question, just what you think of Africa and the context of luxury, particularly because we have our own challenges. We're not alone. I mean, the rise of populism is a thing internationally, and there's huge protests on the Champs-Élysées by the Gilets jaunes with the luxury brands. But I just thought, what are your thoughts on luxury in an African context?
You know, we're super passionate about this continent and what it has to offer. I think, unfortunately, because of various things in our past, we've become, I call it an inverted perspective. You know, we're always, as Africans, going, what's happening in the US, what are they doing in the UK, like, you know, what they're doing in Asia, and forgetting about what we have here. You know, so this concept of saying, oh, it's your time, really is down to us. We've let that happen. We've allowed that to happen. You know, there are so many things that are luxurious here. One of the things we've tried very hard to fight a little bit with some of our clients across the continent is, you know, this kind of idea to kind of go, if we take something from somewhere else that is super luxurious in a particular part of the world and we just transplant it anywhere across this continent, then it's also luxurious, which is, I nearly said a very bad word, it's nonsense. You know, there are wonderful things that we have here that we take for granted. People come here because we have wonderful big blue skies that have no pollution or very little pollution. We have fresh water that we can drink. We have so much that is super luxurious in the rest of the world. We have all the things that give the rest of the world luxury, but we're looking at other elements.
And just, I mean, to that point, Suzanne, in fact, both of you can probably weigh in on this, but I'm quite interested in the concept of craftsmanship. I mean, there's a lot of talk and there's like these buzzwords around things being bespoke and everything's being handcrafted. But in a real world, you're running a business, and in both cases, you are doing huge projects, particularly hotels and large commercial projects. I mean, how practical is craftsmanship? And what I mean by that is asking a local designer from Johannesburg or someone from Windhoek to produce 400 handcrafted beautiful benches, for example.
I think one of the problems is that really makes that kind of thing very difficult, and many times, is that so much of what we are expected to deliver in terms of our project is actually very budget driven. And when you want to get somebody to do that unique handcrafted element, somebody wants 100 of them exactly the same. They want to have that consistency. They don't want to have any surprises. But also it is really about budget. And when we now get a lot of people, unfortunately with almost every one of our clients, we've had to do the China trip, you know, where somebody says, yes, but I can, you know, we went to a factory in China once with a client, and this factory was doing the furniture for the Olympic Village in China. And they showed us a sofa, and they were producing that sofa for the Olympic Village for $27. You know, and the client says, yes, excellent. You know, we're about bottom line. And so much of it is ultimately money driven as well, unless you're dealing with more private residences and things like that. So it's always that push and pull between, yes, the aesthetic and the budget, and we are having to balance that. So we do have some clients that are very committed to that local flavor, you know, using local people and local talent to provide a lot of the things within our projects. But there are other times when it's purely a budget-driven process, and China it is.
That's the reality. I mean, Mardre, do you guys commission people?
We deal with that all of the time, and I think it's so important to include local content. But, you know, there's that old saying that where there's a will, there's a way. And, you know, design for me has always been, you know, I always describe it as advanced logic. It's the way that we find solutions. Design is finding solutions.
Yeah.
So we have to deal with that all of the time. in previous projects to use other ways to achieve it. The challenge is obviously that smaller designer makers obviously often don't have the capacity to produce enough product within the short space of time. But in previous installations, we, for example, use guys that do a lot of timber work to just produce tabletops, and we can then bring bases, because they can't handle it all at the same time. So if you want to achieve it, you will. But it's tricky.
Yeah,
you have to think outside of the typical business way to achieve it, which is a super challenge. Because at the end of the day, it is all about a budget and a timeline. But if there's heart in it, then so we always kind of go, we're not going to win the entire war, but we're going to choose one battle. We're going to have this one item, and we'll fight for it, and we'll get it through there. Whether it's this locally produced tabletop, and kind of get that in there. And eventually, hopefully, it creates momentum.
And Yinka, this is a question for you. I think what's come across in these talks today is that luxury there's a real softness to luxury. And I don't think it's just lip service. I think that people are thinking about these things, right? Do you think that happiness is a luxury?
That's a good question. I think it's luxury because everyone isn't always happy. I think everyone lives different lives. But I think for me, my luxury has always been my family, my upbringing. That's what I see as luxury, and my kind of culture, and my sort of having bridged to my Nigerian culture in my household. So I think, happiness, I don't know, that's a very good question. I've never really thought about it, but I think happiness is a luxury,
And what do you think of the world's view on Africa and luxury?
I think years ago, Nigerians are looking outside of Nigeria, looking at West London, for example, the UK, and not kind of appreciate what they have in Nigeria, and always trying to get, a kind of co-sign to say, this is accepted outside of Nigeria. But I think now, not just only design, but fashion in Nigeria is huge. Like we have a massive Lagos Fashion Week, and it's, attended by people like Naomi Campbell, Edward Enfield, so it's a huge kind of industry. Same as design now as well. So I think we're no longer looking outside for acceptance for other kind of, countries, but we're doing it ourselves because there's so much richness in culture and it's really authentic. So I think it's definitely growing. I think there's we have a lot more to give, because it's very much our culture. So yeah.
I must say, I was listening to a talk by, it's quite interesting just having the South Africans and the Nigerian on the stage, but I was listening to a talk by the head of diversity at Estée Lauder, and she said, and of course Estée Lauder Group is fascinating because they can distill their data down to the tiniest detail. And she said the difference between consumers in South Africa and Nigeria is that Nigerian women are incredibly glamorous, and they want to be glamorous, and South African women are all about being natural. And I thought that was quite an interesting takeaway. And I think if you look at our design, I think it speaks to it. Look at your gran. She was so glamorous. Not glamorous. I'm not saying that about South African ladies, but that's fascinating data. And then Ronelle, just a little me harping on about the tech.
Sure.
What do you think bathrooms will be like in 10 years' time? When I see all this tech's happening now, where will we be in 10 years?
It's actually a very easy question. A couple of years ago, just think about driverless cars. We couldn't imagine driverless cars.
Yeah.
Now it's a reality. It's expanding fast, and it's a technology that most of our youth and a great portion of the adult world is used to, and they know that. In the next 5 years, probably you'll stand in your front of your toilet and you'll be talking to it, whether you like to or not.
That's very sad.
I say we won't need friends anymore. We'll just have my bathroom wear.
You might be flirting with your bathroom mirror.
It'll help with our happiness.
Single?
It'll help with our happiness. You see.
So technology is definitely something that's there to stay. We can deny it as much as you want. The question is just how we are going to integrate it into our lives going forward, how far we are going to allow it to go. That's up to us, but it can definitely contribute to the way that we live in the future.
Yeah, I guess, as you say, it's here. So, I'm not going to keep us talking too long about all these highfalutin things. And there's one question I always ask when I do interviews, and this is really throwing everyone on the spot, but I'm a massive fan of Desert Island Discs. And if you don't listen to the podcast or the BBC radio show, you're totally missing out. Does anyone here listen to Desert Island Discs? Okay, so of course, one of the things they always ask on Desert Island is, in case you don't know, they cast away a celebrity, a famous person every week. They have been for the last 70 years or so, and they ask them to take the 8 discs, songs they'd take with them to an island, and they also ask them for a book and a luxury item. Now, I just wanted to find out from all 4 of you, if I was casting you away to the island, there's no chance of you coming back anytime soon. What luxury item would you take to the desert island? Mardre, shall we start with you?
No, don't start with me. Start with me. We'll talk about speaking.
There's no judgment here. Safe space. Safe space.
Okay.
For me, my pillow.
Ditto. My feather pillow. Yes, 100%.
That's
I
it.
travel with it everywhere.
A
Yes.
pillow.
Yes.
That's it. If I have my
100%.
pillow, I can do anything. I'm well rested. I sleep well. I can just switch off. I can totally relax. Again, relaxation coming back to the ultimate luxury.
We're
Nothing like-
exactly together on
Nothing
this
like
one,
a terrible
yes.
night's sleep on a desert island.
Yes.
Yinka?
Mine would be my RAW color chart, my RAW color book,
Say that again?
my RAW color chart,
Okay,
which
yeah.
I use for like projects.
And what would you do with that on an island?
Purely because it just makes me happy to look at color every day, and then I just love color, so it'll make me smile.
Do you think you'd do anything with it on the island?
I wouldn't know. I'd literally just would look at color and be happy. That's enough for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mardre, given you 2 minutes. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open this up to the audience. Guys, it's such a nice opportunity to pick the brains of the smart guys on the stage. So, anyone here got a question?
I wanted to ask about your opinion about where colours are going in South Africa. Where are we going with colours?
Okay.
Because I've heard a few people talk about colour trends. I've seen a few interior designers show us some very exciting colours, pinks and yellows, and and where
Your
we come
colours,
from
mate.
was
Good color choice.
Well, I think Yinka, you'll be happy to hear about this, right?
Where do you think we're going?
Mardre, Manel, guys?
Do you want to start? You're the colour guy.
Totally.
I'll offer some insight there. We definitely see that there's a bolder move towards colors, especially in the bathroom and kitchen environment. I think as a local South African, we had the era of the avocado bathroom and all of those that we've seen. And then we had this movement back to very stark white colors. Everything was white and very minimalistic. But now color is coming back into the bathroom, especially into the sanitary ware, but now also into the tapware. Fortunately, you know Kohler, and we've got those coming. So keep an eye out for that. But color is definitely making a comeback into the bathroom and kitchen.
Anything from your perspective?
Yeah, as I said earlier when I spoke, we try to not be as kind of trend driven.
Yeah.
But I think color is such a particular thing. People always ask me about that, like, oh, do you think I should paint a color somewhere? And I think you're either someone that lives with color or you're not. And you'll know if you're a color person, and then you'll know the things that make you happy. Color is such an emotive thing, so you need it in different ways in different areas. So I think even to kind of trends, I think are really tricky. Because it's kind of somebody enforcing an idea on you.
Yeah.
I think color is so emotive; it can make us so happy. It can be so luxurious.
I agree.
So I think it needs a bit of context. Color.
I agree. I think you have Pantone who always have the colour of the year, and I think when they say it's lilac, everyone's this is the colour for my house or my kitchen. But I try to avoid following trends. I feel like colour is a personal taste about how you're feeling, and so I design what I feel is a trend for me. I don't want to follow trends or feel like it's purple or pink or blue. If it feels good and it's right for how I'm feeling, then that's what I use. So I would say try to avoid trends, because trends always change and they die, and so I think just try to sort of be real for what you think works for you. So yeah.
Can I just interject there and say, Yinka, has anyone come to you for a project and said, listen, we really like what you're doing, but can you just use less colour?
Do you know what I've had?
Or
that?
just
Yeah.
tone it down a bit.
That's true, yeah. I had a project I was doing, I think last year, and they said, it's too much colour. But I said, the reason why you like my work is because the colour. Now I've got to bring it down a bit. I'm a bit confused. But yeah, I've had it before. But Colours, you can never get enough of colour. Colour's a good thing, you know. We should all use colour more. Yeah. Yeah.
I think there was Rob. There was another question. There's one here and there. Exciting times. Okay, should we start here?
Hi, this question's for Andre.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, there was an uproar when Louis Vuitton brought the Basutu blanket into their menswear collection.
Yes.
Do you think, or there were accusations of it being cultural appropriation? Do you think it's that, or maybe it's local designers overlooking, inspiration local within their own context?
Yeah, I think it's a very fair question. I think it's also a little bit about perspective. Unfortunately, it's easier to be negative than to be positive, so a lot of people will just go to the negative thing. I think it's cultural appropriation when we use things very directly, but I think that's a silly thing to do anyway. We are a bunch of people here that live in a contemporary context, so if we're as a studio, we love referencing Africa, but referencing it is a very different thing to using it directly. We should be inspired by it, and we should be, and we should then create new things. The challenge is to create new things out of the things we're inspired by. And if we kind of look at it that way, we will find, this pride in what we have. I once went to an exhibition in Paris that tracked personal photographs from friends of Picasso of scenes in his apartment. And he had walls and walls full of African artifacts, and then on the same timeline, tracked sketches and maquettes that he made that actually related to very particular pieces that are on all of his walls. So if we want to see it, so on the one hand we're going, we're only now being respected for what we do. On the other hand, if we want to look at it, we started Picasso. His dual perspective, all of that was started from here. Is it cultural appropriation? No, it's being inspired by it, and it's having pride in what we do.
Maybe it's the Wakandarization of Africa, yeah?
Yes.
I think we've got another question over there, yeah.
I've got a question for Ronel on the topic of using recycled goods as a raw material for a new developed product. First of all, I want to say thank you for the whole presentation, especially with regards to the technology side of it, and how that is coming into the living space, especially the bathroom, which has been kind of a very tricky place to bring tech into, because you've got the element of water, and it's a bit of a mind bender as to how can technology benefit you. And I saw the one clip of the pre-workout shower, got a good laugh out of everyone, but that sort of unorthodox thinking is, in my opinion, what makes great products at the end of the day. Now, relating that back to recycled product and the use of recycled or recrushing old basins and toilets and stuff like that. In the presentation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you said by 2035 you guys want to be completely carbon negative. Is that correct?
Carbon neutral.
Carbon neutral, which is still a massive endeavor if you take into consideration that you guys are firing a lot of your stuff. My question leads on to the recrushing of basins and the recrushing of ceramic products. Would you guys be open as a manufacturer to go on endeavors with local, international companies to try and find alternative uses for those types of materials, or is it mainly that you want to use it in-house?
At the moment, I think our focus very much is on our processes and our direct responsibility. Insofar as how local we would go in terms of developing new technologies or new uses or upcycling products, I can't really speak from an international manufacturing perspective, but I can tell you that Kohler is always open to new ideas and discussion. And if anything was to be brought forward to them, it's definitely up for discussion. We can look into that and take it to the relevant people for that. How much so it will happen, I can't speak for that, but I know that we're on the leading edge of these technologies and of being really a responsible citizen to the world. So we want to participate, we want to contribute, and we want to make sure that we leave this world better than we found it at.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I guess we're going to wrap it up then. I just wanted to first of all say thank you to the four of you. I mean, that is fantastic. I feel like if I could just have you in my handbag at all times to just do all my work for me, from a luxury perspective, that would be fantastic.
Quite a luxury bag.
Yeah, so it's a Mary Poppins handbag, big luxury one. So thank you very much for giving us your time and your insights. And I can't believe I just said insights. I apologize. Yeah, thank you very much. And also thank you to all of you. When we wrap up, I'd like to invite all of you to just join us outside to what we call in reception, but it's really the bar, just across there at the Hendricks Bar, to have a bit of a snack and a bit of a cocktail. And guys, please enjoy yourself this evening, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.